Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform and our ongoing series with Dr. Peter Glidden, who I believe is one of the best, if not the best, nutritional experts, wellness experts in the world. This is about our 20th segment that we have provided that is available on this YouTube channel. It's available at operationfreedomhealth.com, and we also have it available at davejanda.com. So they're all there, all the 20 segments that we have done addressing and how empowering you and your health and wellness. This is not about empowering insurance companies, government bureaucrats, the AMA, big pharmaceutical companies. None of the above do we empower. We are empowering you by providing you information that I can tell you I never received throughout my training in medical school, internship, residency, or fellowship. And the reason is because, well, it empowers you, not any of the other entities. And this is where Dr. Glidden's information and his experience in providing help and support to his patients and to the public is so important. A little background on Peter. He attended Williams College and obtained his Bachelor of Science in Pre-Medical Studies from the University of Massachusetts. He then obtained his naturopathic degree in naturopathic medicine from the Bastyr University in Seattle, Washington. Peter is currently in private practice in naturopathic medicine and has been licensed to practice naturopathic medicine since 1992. Now, in addition to his phenomenal clinical skills, Peter also is an outstanding author, and his 2 books should be the foundation of your medical library. And I assure you, everything you will need to know about health and wellness and your well-being and your family's well-being, you will find in those 2 books. Everybody is sick, and I Know Why, and Attempt to Cure with Holistic Medicine. It's my honor to have back with me someone I consider a very dear friend, Dr. Peter Glidden. Peter, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform and operationfreedomhealth.com.
Happy New Year, Dr. Janda.
Well, happy New Year to you, Pete. And today we're gonna hit and focus on plant-derived minerals and how plant-derived minerals benefit every one of our listeners, can benefit, and their health and well-being.
It's a really interesting subject. It's it's one of my favorite things to talk about because it's the plant-derived minerals that sets us apart from everybody else. But before I take a deep dive into that, there was something that you were saying in the introduction that I just want to talk about just for 30 seconds or more. You know, everybody and their brother has been convinced to buy medical insurance in the United States.
True.
And in Canada or the European Union, it's baked into the cake. You don't have a choice. They take it right out of your paycheck because it's socialized medicine. I have a live chat a couple times a week as part of my online subscription service, and every week there's 5 or 6 people that show up. Oh, Dr. Glidden, I've got arthritis, I've got high blood pressure, I've got heartburn, I've got insomnia. It's a litany, it's a list. It's never just one thing. Mm-hmm. All these people are in their 50s or in their 60s, and my immediate response is, wow. While you have been paying through the nose, right, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, if your family is involved, in medical insurance premiums every month for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, massive amounts of money, while you've been paying all of this money in insurance premiums, you got sick. Mm-hmm. And nobody connects those 2 dots. Nobody takes the next step and says, well, what good did all of that money do me? It didn't do me any good. All it did, basically, when people buy medical insurance, right, they're betting that they're going to get sick. Correct. And then when they do get sick, which is inevitable, not because people have bad genes, not because of a voodoo curse, but because of lack of education, lack of nutrition, lack of proper dietary discretion, their insurance only gives them access to pharmaceutical medicine.
True.
The intention of which is not to cure anything. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, it's an insane world that we live in, right? All these non-Trumpers and all of this nonsense that's happening now in the political arena. It's amazing to me that a situation like this can persist right there in front of everybody's face and nothing happens to it. Every time I talk to people like this, I find my jaw on the ground, and it's an amazing thing to me. I just don't understand it.
Well, and this is one of the reasons why, Peter, we get a lot of blowback from the big entities through big pharma isn't happy with this series, big medicine, the AMA, big insurance, big government. None of them are happy with what we do on this series every other week. And that's why, we touch so many people through this series, and I believe help so many people. And in spite of the fact that we get this heat, we keep doing it because we know it's the right thing to do for society.
It is the right thing to do. And I guess, the saying goes, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess if the story is true, not everybody who had the opportunity got onto Noah's Ark, right?
True. Yeah, no.
It's the same thing here. There's all of this death and destruction and suffering and enormous expenses of money, and most of it is unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I looked at the statistics, in the upcoming election, and that the number one thing that people are concerned about is health care. That's like first on their agenda. Well, I'm glad that that's your number one concern. Maybe you should look at the fact that conventional medicine does not practice health care. It's disease management.
That's right.
And while it's been a one-party medical program for 107 years, our health outcome statistics are getting worse. They're not getting better. They're getting worse. The problem with healthcare in the United States is that it's a medical monopoly, and that the people who are in charge don't practice healthcare. And, thank God for Novocaine and lidocaine and the sterile technique and surgery when it's necessary. But for goodness sakes, life expectancy is getting shorter. Autism is skyrocketing. Alzheimer's skyrocketing. And why? It's because conventionally trained medical doctors, they're the wrong dog for that hunt. But they're never going to admit defeat, and the pharmaceutical industry is not going to go quietly into the night.
No, they're not.
So, I digress here, but I think it's important every once in a while just to pause, take a breath, and put everything in perspective here, right? Because
I agree with you.
I mean, our basic assumption here, the foundation upon which all of this information is based, is the notion, the belief that the human body knows how to fix itself, the human body wants to fix itself, and the human body's trying to do that all of the time. So rather than develop therapeutics that exert a hostile pharmacological takeover of the human body,
mm-hmm.
forcing the metabolism in a particular direction that the doctor thinks is best, and then suffering the side effects because of it, it's a better approach to develop and deliver therapeutics that support the body's ability to fix itself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been doing this for 31 years now clinically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you that the secret to my success is the plant-derived minerals.
So let's talk about that.
No, I mean, no kidding. It's
we need to
talk. Really a big deal.
Let's address that as far as what plant-derived minerals. Where do they come from? How do folks get them? How does it benefit folks' health?
So, right, there are, just like an automobile, the human body needs certain things in order to work.
Mm-hmm.
The car needs oil, it needs transmission fluid, it needs water in the radiator, it needs air in the tires, right, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the human body needs 90 essential nutrients in order to function the way that nature and God intended it. Now, that's 90. The lion's share of the 90 essential nutrients are the minerals.
Mm-hmm.
60 of the 90, that's 2/3, 66%, the lion's share of our body's nutrient needs are not vitamins or amino acids or essential fats. They're minerals. Things like calcium and magnesium and copper and sulfur, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a great thing, but there's also a problem there. Because plants and animals cannot make minerals. Can't do it.
Nope.
If a plant could make a mineral, right? We could bioengineer lettuce to make gold, and, well, We wouldn't be rich because gold would have no more value, but nonetheless.
Right.
The only way that minerals get into the human body is if they're in the soil that the food is growing in. And then we eat that food, or an animal eats that food, and then we eat the animal. That's the only way that minerals get into the human body.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that the minerals that we need, 60 of them,
Mm-hmm.
are not all present in the topsoil. Some of them are,
Mm-hmm.
not all of them.
Right.
And, it's different from field to field and state to state and county to county and country to country. There's no place that we found on God's green earth where all 60 minerals exist in the topsoil. And to complicate matters further, when farmers use pesticides or herbicides,
Mm-hmm.
those chemicals prohibit the absorption of what minerals are in the soil into the plant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so as time goes by, more and more, Monsanto agriculture and pesticides and Roundup is everywhere now.
Right.
Less and less and less minerals in the soil, less and less minerals in the plants, less and less minerals in the food, less and less minerals in the human body, and it's 66% of our nutrient needs.
Mm.
So that's going to add up fast. And
Yes, it
those
is.
roosters are going to, chickens are going to come home to roost pretty quick. Those straws are going to break the camel's back pretty quickly. So supplementing with minerals is extremely important. It's more important than vitamins. It's more important than aminos, acids, or essential fats. Mineral supplementation is a big flipping deal. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this begs the question, well, which minerals?
Right.
Which form of the minerals? How many of the minerals? And how am I going to get them? And all of these things make a giant difference, because getting a mineral into the human body is not as easy as you might think it would be. So, like, for instance, in England, right, we've got the White Cliffs of Dover.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all calcium. It's calcium carbonate. So let's say you wake up one morning and you have a clue, and you know that your body needs calcium, and you live in England, so you go to the White Cliffs of Dover, you dig up a whole bunch of the calcium carbonate, you put it into a bucket, you take it home, you pulverize it, you put it in boiling water for 20 minutes to kill any bugs or anything else that might be in there, and then you put it into little capsules and swallow it. Well, that's one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that form of calcium
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the ground is maybe, if you're lucky, 8 to 10% absorbable. Maybe if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you take that calcium carbonate, that chalk, and you sprinkle it on the soil,
Yep.
and you grow vegetables on it, when the vegetable sucks up the calcium, as the plant metabolizes that calcium, it changes it into a molecule that animals and humans can absorb like that. And that's the preferred way that minerals get into the body, is that they're in the soil, the plant sucks them up,
Mm-hmm.
alters the chemical composition of the mineral, and then the mineral gets into the body super easy. It's like over 90% absorbable. It's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
So, plant-derived minerals are the way to go if you are smart enough to think that you need minerals in the human body, which you do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, there's no place that we've found currently where all these minerals are in the soil. So what are we going to do? Well, we got lucky. Because in Utah, as it turns out, there is a deposit of Jurassic-era plants that decomposed and that stopped the decomposition at a particular state called humic shale. So normally when a plant decomposes, right, it goes from a plant into like this boggy material like peat moss, and then it condenses even further into something called humic shale, and then it condenses even further into coal, and somewhere in that stepwise process, oil is formed, right?
Okay.
So there's all these processes by which a living plant, when it dies, decomposes into different mineral structures.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mine in southern Utah where the decomposition process of dinosaur-era plants stopped at the humic shale step.
Huh.
And there's a geologic reason why that happened. I'm not gonna bore everybody with it, but nonetheless, this is a rare occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, because it stopped at humic shale, but number two, the Jurassic era plants were from millions of years ago, when the oxygen content in the atmosphere was very different than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened in a geological area which was rich in mountain streams.
Mm.
So picture, a Jurassic era landscape with mountains and rivers coming off of the mountains, and what's in the sediment in the river? Minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Which have been eroded off of the face of the mountains. So the rivers come off of the mountains, mineral-rich mountains come off of the mountains. And by the way, it's 100% organic because it's millions of years ago, before the internal combustion engine, right, or even humans were around.
Right.
And it concentrates onto these plains and these lakes where all these dinosaur-era plants are growing, and they grow to huge proportions because of the remarkable amount of oxygen that was in the atmosphere then. It's another reason why the dinosaurs were so big, because the oxygen was different than it is now. So anyway, and also the dinosaurs became so big because they were eating these plants, which didn't have just a few minerals in them. They were loaded. Mm-hmm. And I mean loaded with minerals, right? Plant-derived minerals. So then the meteors hit, or whatever it was that killed the dinosaurs, right? The dinosaurs die, the plants die, everything dies. And these Jurassic era plants loaded with minerals, plant-derived minerals, start to decompose, but they don't go all the way to coal or oil. They stop at humic shale. Now, when you mine the humic shale, when you dig the humic shale out of the ground and put it in pharmaceutical-grade distilled water, literally the minerals in the shale bubble up, blossom up out of the rock. The original name for this product, when they first discovered that this was happening, there was a company that is no longer in existence, but the product name for this was Blooming Minerals. Because it literally, when you would put a piece of humic shale in a bucket of water, and you could see the minerals just pop right out of the rock. It was pretty remarkable. So Longevity has a contract with the mine in Utah where the humic shale is found. So they dig the humic shale up, they process it in a pharmaceutical grade distilled water. They let it set for a certain number of hours or days at a certain temperature. They leach all of the minerals that are in that shale out of it. Then they purify it for human consumption, stick it in a bottle, and ship it out. And it's the only place on planet Earth, the only place that we've discovered so far, where this unbelievably rich source of plant-derived organic minerals is found. And by the way, there's 77 minerals that are in one bottle of plant minerals. We only need 60, at least that's what the research shows so far. Right? Maybe next year we'll figure out we need 62 or 63, who knows. But this stuff is one of the most effective nutritional supplements I have ever seen, and there's nobody else on planet Earth that makes it.
Now, we have this information. The information is based at OperationFreedomHealth.com. We also have the products available at OperationFreedomHealth.com. And full disclosure, that purchase the products through Operation Freedom Health do support the Operation Freedom YouTube channel. Now, Peter, how much should folks take of the plant-derived minerals? So they get the bottle. What do they do then?
It's raw. By the way, it's one of the least expensive nutritional supplements on the market. I think one bottle of plant minerals in the U.S. is like $21. I mean, it's laughable how inexpensive it is, right? What's the dosage? Nobody knows. Here's what we would like you to do a little in-house experiment with, and we're starting to do this. I have a colleague who's a bodybuilder, a pretty serious bodybuilder, And for the last couple of weeks, he's been doing 4 ounces of he's about 210 pounds. He's been doing 4 ounces of the plant minerals a day. He spreads them out 1 ounce 4 times a day. And I just talked to him before we did this interview today. He told me that since he's been doing that, he doesn't have any muscle fatigue after the workout, right? If you do a really serious hard workout, you're in pain for a couple of hours or a couple of days because of the lactic acid buildup. And people's appetites tend to increase, right, rather dramatically when they're working out like that. He told me his appetite reduced and his recovery time was almost 100% automatic. No lactic acid buildup. He's not in pain after the workout, and he's able to go to the gym the next day. Now, look, this is an in-house experiment. It's just one person. But one of the reasons that I am such a cheerleader for the Longevity Company is because of this particular product. They have a lot of remarkably effective products. Their Foundation 90 Essential Nutrient Pack is really great. But what sets them apart from everybody else, because they're the only ones that have it, is the plant-derived minerals. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. So our advice is do a little in-house experiment. So for the first week, do 1 ounce of the plant minerals a day. And then the second week, do 1 ounce twice a day. And then the third week, do 1 ounce 3 times a day. See how it makes you feel. And if you like the way that you feel doing an increased dose of it, I would stick at 1 ounce 3 times a day, unless you're like an athlete or bodybuilding or training for a marathon or something like that, which some of our listeners do. Little in-house experiment, right? The proof of the pudding in this regard is in fact in the eating, and you'll know pretty quickly whether or not an increased dose of this stuff is good for you.
And then as folks, Foundation, should they still use the Foundation pack?
100%. I mean, that's really the secret to our success here is that we're holistic, right? We don't just do the minerals. We don't just do large doses of vitamin C or injections of vitamin B, right?
Right.
We give all 90 essential nutrients. But what I'm recommending here is do the 90 essential nutrients, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the Beyond Osteo FX, the Prohoba Omegas, but to that, add increased amounts of the plant-derived minerals and see what happens. I think you're gonna love the way that you feel.
And Peter, some folks say, well, wait, now I'm on some medications, for example, for arthritis, for high blood pressure, for whatever the condition might be. Many folks find that as they become nutrified with these 90 essential nutrients, minerals, vitamins, fatty acids, they find that their requirements for their prescription grade medication fall, and some fall significantly to zero. That was my case with arthritis, right? When I was having ongoing arthritic problems for an extended period of time, you suggested, well, rather than going on a third anti-inflammatory, Dave, for your arthritis, Nutrify. Go on the 90 essential nutrients, and let's see if you actually need that third anti-inflammatory. And in fact, Dave, you'll find that maybe you don't need any, which I didn't quite believe would be the case. But sure as shooting, Pete, I started finally what you told me to do, and within a month, I was off all anti-inflammatories.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. You know that there's a couple things I want to say about that. First of all, if you're driving down the road and the check engine light comes on, you're probably going to pull over to the side of the road and attend to that, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you have high blood pressure, or if you have arthritis, or if you have heartburn, that's the check engine light. And what most people do, because really they haven't been educated to know otherwise, and society, Big Pharma doesn't want people to understand this, they'll go to a conventionally trained medical doctor and they'll take drugs that suppress the symptom. But another thing that nobody even thinks about is, well, son of a gun, while I've been under the care of conventional medicine, I got high blood pressure.
Right.
I got heartburn. I got arthritis. I've been paying hundreds of dollars in insurance, and I got sick. And the thought behind that, the thought that informs that insanity, and for lack of a better word, is the misbelief or the myth that disease is inevitable.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That you're going to get sick, the body's going to break down, you're going to get high blood pressure, it's baked into the cake, it's just life. And this is not our experience. And in a naturopathic doctor's office, the goal is to get the patient so healthy that the patient doesn't need any prescription meds.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal,
mm-hmm.
which most medical doctors don't even think is possible. They think it's a fiction. Mm-hmm. that you could even say that out loud. Is, what are you talking about? You got to be crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is our experience, and this is the goal. So when people finally catch a clue and they nutrify their body and they stop eating food that's coming up the works, often the body rallies
mm-hmm.
and starts to fix itself. And as the body gets better, number one, the drugs that you're taking work more effectively,
mm-hmm.
like blowing air onto a fire. And number two, you'll get to a point where you don't need the drug anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to work with your attending physician. You know, most medical doctors they would love it if their patients weren't on the drugs.
True.
Because they know what's going to happen eventually. They know the side effects. They know the ramifications, right? Unintended consequences. It's a matter of time. So all you have to do is be mindful. And, you know, hopefully your medical doctor will be open-minded enough to, when they see that, oh, son of a gun, your blood pressure is normal now, they'll want to reduce your blood pressure meds or stop the blood pressure meds, right? It's like that. So as we nutrify, as we clean things up, as we stimulate the body's ability to work better, to fix itself, as we increase, by way of experimentation, our minerals intake, look to see what happens to your symptomology. Work hand in hand with your medical doctor with an eye towards reducing your prescription meds as much as is humanly possible.
Peter, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. Folks, this information is available on OperationFreedomHealth.com. Again, the products plus the information is also available on the website. With the foundation pack that Peter discussed, as well as the underlying, if you will, foundation for your health and wellness, plus the plant-derived minerals, plus all the other products and that we've talked about, and the other segments that we've devoted to really enhancing your health and your wellness. I also encourage you to get Peter's books, Everybody is Sick and I Know Why. They are available on Amazon, and Attempt a Cure with Holistic Medicine. I thank you, Peter, again, for providing information that folks will not get from any other source that I'm aware of. I thank you for doing that, and I thank you for your courage in stepping forward, because in presenting this information, you are taking on the big entities. Big insurance, big medicine, big pharmaceuticals, and big government. But in the process, you're enhancing the health and wellness of every person willing to listen and to watch, and I thank you for that.
Well, like Benjamin Franklin said, Dave, we all must hang together, or most assuredly, we will hang alone.
Very true. Folks, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and as we sign off every segment, until next time, Dave Jandis signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thank you for your time today.